We thought, as we have some new guests today, I think I haven't seen you, who actually was not here yesterday. So three, I think. So we just thought that it's a good idea. Maybe first of all, a quick intro. My name is Oliver Krause. One of the speakers, together with my colleague, Carl-Michael Henneking. And our topic, digital transformation towards Industry 4.0. We had yesterday a full day with 3 plenary sessions, an intro, setting the scene on what is Industry 4 in the context of digital transformation. We then had a self-assessment session based on a questionnaire and a presentation on study results, and then a second plenary speech on the target picture design for digital transformation towards Industry 4, and especially also for those who haven't attended yet, I will just briefly highlight the key results or key messages from my last presentation yesterday evening. What are the key takeaways? Why should we care at all about Industry 4? There are 2 reasons. Either you want to win or you don't want to disappear. We have seen empirical evidence on this, and you will have it, or you have it for those of you who haven't attended yet, in the presentation material, empirical evidence that clearly shows that failure in transformation towards digital, towards Industry 4 is actually the norm rather than the exception, and so it's do or die. Industry 4 is about horizontal and vertical integration of data across in the company and across the supply chain, as well as across the product life cycle from design via use to recycling. Then we covered the topic of target picture. Target picture for each company, each business is essential. And a target picture, our understanding of a target picture is that you need to have a clear view of products and services, of your operating model. This means processes, organizations, IT. And clearly as well the business model, which is how to make business, how to make money, how to commercialize your products and services. At the intersection of these 3 areas, we have identified people and technology capabilities as key drivers. Then we also made the point that for an individual Industry 4 strategy, it is essential not only to understand the market and the customer needs, but also have a clear view of technology building blocks and the capabilities of these technology solutions, because there's an abundance of technology out there, and it's really difficult to pick the right or make the right choices that fit your purpose. Yeah. And then another point was towards the end that successful transformations largely depend on cultural topics, on the mindset, how you approach that. And this is closely linked to the basic beliefs we all have, and they are rooted in our experience. So this is a topic we will focus on now. And Carl-Michael will address that in really extensive on his presentation. Last point maybe, I gave an example of one tool, the so-called campus approach, where we bring together people across hierarchies and functions and work intensely in, let's say, rather workshop setting, which proved to be, from my experience, a very useful tool to embark on such a transformation journey. With this, I hand over to Carl Michael. The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Pleased to see you again. But pretty great that I see you here. Today, we'll have... this is the andere Präsentation? It's the same thing. Okay.
So
okay. Today we talk about culture, workplace, and people. I think yesterday we had a couple of discussions touching these fields already. And you might have noticed I'm quite passionate about this topic. So we have 1.5 hours. But I'm honest, if I'm passionate about something, it's very difficult for me to stop talking. So it might take a little bit longer. But feel free to interrupt me if it gets too much. And again, if you have any questions, this is what I liked about the day yesterday. Ask the question, we can immediately answer, or you can try to benefit from our experience in this field. Okay, let's start, right? Oliver talked about it, a target picture of a digital transformation. You can do it in very different ways. The way we do it currently, we look at the product and services. Obviously, you want to digitalize. Might be your own services, right? Or might be new services, or your existing services, or might be new services. Obviously, you have a certain business model. We saw or discussed yesterday the change from classical selling of products to selling of processes, of services, right? Which is a huge change, right? In terms of how you operate your company, how you bill your customers, how you approach your customers, how your sales people are working. This is massive, right? You can easily put it on a slide, but this is really substantial. So this is the business model part. What we want to focus on now, under the headline of workplace and culture, is people capabilities and parts of the operation model. We cannot go into each detail of the operation model because then we would go into a couple of process details, which is very difficult to cover in 1.5 hours. But what I still want to do is to give you a kind, for these aspects, still a kind of 360 view. So I will touch a lot of subjects, right? You might not get a deep dive. We can, if you want, we can discuss it. But I want to give you a more holistic view and a holistic picture. Why? Because my experience with running digital transformation programs myself, my experience with looking at how corporates are doing it, how startups or digital companies are doing is, if I look to the corporate world always thinks I pick one of these things and then go subsequently. I start with a business model, then I think about product and services, and then I try to change my operating model, my people capabilities, everything at once. It seemed to be too complicated. The biggest issue with digital transformation is we talk about something which is disruptive, right? Disruptive means here it touches each and every of these fields, and you cannot do it sequentially. It's a thing where you have to adjust or adjust screws at all of these elements in the target picture at once, right? This is why you need a 360 view. 360 view is important because if you talk with, if you get any information on digital transformation, normally you're overwhelmed, right? Just for what I'm presenting you now is based on what we know from our empirical practice. It's based on researching 3,000 studies. 3,000 studies. If you read through 3,000 studies, you in the end, your head is burning. You think you are almost near to a headache, right? So you need to know what is important, right? And this is, I think, what we selected here is what we think are the most important things. Still, it's 360, right? So we try to find a way through the jungle with what we are doing here. couple of questions, but my core question is, and I really would like you to answer the question, how do you want your company to work? How should your company work in the future? If you give some attributes, how should your company behave? How should your company behave towards customers? It should be customer-centric, right? Most probably. How do you want your company to behave, let's say, internally? You want your company most probably to be agile, right? Agile, fast. What does the CEO of your company want? Agile, that's fine. Innovative, fine. He wants you to be frugal, right? So don't waste money where it's not necessary. And there are a couple of other things which you normally get as an answer to this question. I want to work collaboratively with my colleagues. We talked about agility already, frugality. I want my people to become entrepreneurial, right? You should have a can-do mentality. You should be customer-centric, or how Amazon called it, a customer-obsessed. Okay, this is a target picture. Now look into your company. What is your company currently doing? How would you qualify your company according to these criteria? Just do it mentally. Do this exercise mentally, and then say it's a scale from 1 to 10. Where do I see my company in terms of agility? Where do I see my company in terms of customer centricity? Are we frugal in terms of how we're operating? A little bit we did this exercise yesterday with this self-assessment stuff, but think about it from a cultural perspective, from a way how you operate in your company. I mean, I cannot read your minds, but from my empirical evidence, I assume there might be certain gaps, right? Maybe not on all of these criteria, but at least with regards to some of the criteria, there might be gaps. Normally, these gaps are significant. We don't talk about something small, but we say, if I see how I work with my colleagues or my company, what I normally see, okay, there's a marketing function, there's a finance function, there are people in production. Yesterday we had a lot of talks with the gentleman from Ford. There is the IT function, right? And if you want to bring things to the market, damn, it takes very long, right? Because I have to coordinate between all these areas. Sometimes before I can get something from my colleague on peer level, a colleague has to go up the hierarchical ladder to his boss, right? The other one you want to work with has also to go up with this hierarchical level. And then on the top, after a certain time has passed, people agree, you can collaborate, right? And then it goes down the ladder again, and then the people start working, right? Normal setup, right? So you work in silos, not very agile, right? If you look at how startup or digital companies are working, this does not go up and down. You are on the horizontal layer. Guy A talks to guy B because we have edge-centric decision-making, right? The empowerment is at the lower level. Only very few things are really scaled up to or really brought up to the people on the top. And interestingly, normally you can say, okay, this is only possible in small organizations, right? Because there are few people, everybody knows everybody, you know the competencies of the other people. This is why it's easy. That was how each and every traditional company reacted to startups 10 years ago. They said, come on, let's don't talk about operation model, about culture, about how workplaces are, blah, blah, blah. These are small. They simply have the advantage because they are small. Think of us as a company. We also were small in the beginning, and if you've been part of this startup journey, we were also more agile in the beginning. But if a company scales up, that's not possible, right? But you see companies like Facebook, Google, Airbnb, Amazon. These are companies who have hundreds, who have 10,000s of people, and who kept this way of working. So that's the proof. Maybe we should have put some more efforts into thinking how we can reinvent ourselves. How can we change our business model? And in terms of every new company who comes on the market. The company we ourselves built up in Dubai, for example, they follow from the beginning, they follow these philosophies, they follow these methodologies, which we'll elaborate during the course of the presentation today, which builds in their DNA these kind of culture, these kind of operating models. And that's your new competition, right? That's your new, that are the new competitors. So there is a big call for reinventing organization. There's a big call for reinventing operation models. And all of this starts kind of from the top. It's not only from the top, but it starts from the top, from the general, let's say, the frame which defines culture. So what is the frame which defines culture? So this is Zappos, by the way. Think about your company, look at this picture, right? Maybe you are close to this picture, maybe you are not close to this picture, I don't know, right? But how do you get your company to this kind of what's called, here, you see it here, culture crash, right? How can you crash your culture, right? How you can get this agility, how can you get this feeling, how can you motivate your people, right, to be able to compete with people who are from their culture, from their way of working on this level. So first of all, I try to tell you what not to do, right? Because the classical answer is, I mean, anybody of you who's been to Silicon Valley? Okay, so what normally happens, right? You get your C-suite or you get your CEO, and then you make appointments at Google, right? Melon Drive, you see all the nice electric cars running there, the charging station. First thing you see if you go there is a charging station for electric cars. Then you go into this nice Google building where they play volleyball outside. Everything's great. Next visit is to Facebook. A huge campus, very, very impressive. Everybody is cool. Huge halls where all the programmers are working. And then they carry you maybe to Apple, which is a little bit different, right? This is a normal thing. Then the CEO comes back, says, okay, I don't need this tie anymore. I don't need the tie anymore. This is the normal reaction. Next thing he says, okay, it's not really cool here, but okay, let's have a ping pong table or a kicker somewhere in my office. It's good. I'm not making really jokes of it, right? If you go a little bit further, you say, yes, definitely, I need to go digital. I was so impressed by this visit. These guys are so cool. Okay, digital, maybe I don't know really how it goes. There's a young guy or somebody I hire, chief digital officer. Okay, and then it stops. Then it stops, right? I think good. So the first 5 minutes, I would say, on your marathon, good. You did it well, right? But you stop right there. Because everybody thinks now, okay, things have changed. But that's not the case, right? If you want to change a culture, if you want to change an operation model, you start from ambition. You go to incentives of the people. You have to work on how your leaders lead people, right? You have to work on the skills your people currently have, right? You need to bring new skills into the company. You need to think about how your skills, how your people operate together with new technologies, for example, human-robot collaboration. You start to change your workplace, how it looks like, right? And you start to change the work policies. So flexible working, remote working, you can do things mobile, you bring your own device. All this stuff, right, has to be done. And this is not a thing which you can do in a week or so. It really needs a well thought through agenda, and it touches almost every area of the company, right? It's not the job of HR to take care about culture. Obviously, you have a CEO. You have to kind of diffuse all these cultural elements, and you bring in. You have to change every leader in the company, more or less, right? You need to change the skill set of more or less every person in the company. So this is really like a pyramid. It goes down. So nothing easy. That's why digital transformation, easily said. You easily find a couple of slides and bullet points. To implement it is really huge work, But it's not rocket science. None of the things these guys do at Silicon Valley is something where you need to have a PhD in mathematics, right? Or physics in, right? The principles they apply are very simple principles. They are just doing things differently. And this is what the whole digital transformation is about. So, good starting point, but definitely not sufficient. Okay, so what's sufficient? Let's go through these, I think, 3 essential parts. One is culture and leadership. The other is people and skills. And the third one is workplace and tools. So, I'm a strategist, right? I did 20 years of my life, and I built up companies, built up a venture fund, etc. But the one thing in my career which you always find is strategy, right? So I'm passionate about strategy. But I tell you, strategy says go into this direction, right? Go into this direction. What happened in the company is this, right? And why is this? Because culture blocks it, or your strategy is not aligned with your culture, right? And there's a saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. That's really the case. That's really the case, right? You can have the smartest strategy. You can know exactly where to go, but you have to break up organizational barriers. No way around this. If you do digital transformation, no way around breaking up organizational barriers. How is this done? I mean, I don't know what the motto of your company is, how your company is operated, but this is the CEO of Zappos. Zappos, do you know Zappos? Shoe retailer, e-commerce in US. Big one, bought by Amazon, right, for a couple of billion. So really big player. So that CEO says, my motto is have fun, right? It's not only about earning money for the people. People should have fun when they're working. Obviously, you also should earn money, no problem, right? But you should have fun here, right? We talked about happiness this morning, or self-management. If you go to Silicon Valley and you see all these companies are more or less the same, you see people who are more or less happy, right? When they are working, and they work extremely long, right? So it also has an economic impact. But this comes from the top, right? It's not somebody says, okay, your next quota for sales is X, Y, Z. The profitability of the company is here and there. They also look at this, no problem, right? But the question is, what is in front? What steers? What motivates people? So they start with this. And this is not only with Zappos. If you look at the mission statements of Facebook, Google, or Amazon, these guys say want to have fun, but we are also bold, right? Don't stay in the comfort zone, right? So we really want to change the world. Google to organize the world's information, the world, so not America or whatever, the world's information. And they defined this not 2 years ago, but when they started, right? From the very beginning, that's their ambition, right? And this drives people, right? Same with Amazon, to be Earth's most customer-centric organization. Think about this. 10 years ago, you would have said that. I would have been shy, honestly speaking, to say this. But, I mean, this guy materialized it. 50% of all online sales, 50% of all online sales in US are with Amazon, right? 50%. And online sales is a super fragmented market, right? Everybody can open up, theoretically, an e-commerce shop. So they really realized these super bold visions. So you get a drive. Now it's not that way, but you're moving in this direction, right? From the very top, right? Or you can say, okay, my company has also a vision statement, right? It's also bold. I want to be super customer-centric. I want to do blah, blah, blah. This you find everywhere, nice website, nice company brochures. Yeah, we know all this. But if you look in the company itself, are people really behaving like this? I don't know. I mean, there might be a discrepancy. These guys, it gets cased down now, right? So they have a bold vision. Now it goes into the next layer, which at Google are called key beliefs, at Amazon leadership principles. And that's not PowerPoint, believe me. That's not PowerPoint. Amazon, by the way, Jeff Bezos, he hates PowerPoint. He abolished PowerPoint. There's no, any management meeting, you are not allowed to show PowerPoint. what he says to his people, if you want to make a statement, here's a Word document, 6 pages, you articulate it in full sentences, right? Subject, object, predicate, a point, you articulate it. And management meetings start with not looking at PowerPoint. We're also doing PowerPoint here because I'm not so critical about PowerPoint than him, but management meetings start like this. You sit there, first 20 minutes, right? All the managers, they read this paper, right? The 6 pages, right? From page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then they go through the paper, go in depth, and discuss what's in there. So you move away from bullet points, right, to something really where you can see, okay, does it make sense what the guy wants? Then we are going to implement it, right? Seems like simple things, but if you add up all these simple things, out of a sudden, you build a completely different culture. Culture, by the way, although Silicon Valley has some homogeneity, it's not the same with each and every company. I mean, they have a certain common ground, which is these attributes I showed in the beginning, agile, innovative, customer-centric. But the way they are doing it, there might be different. That depends on which market you are in. You see this very clearly if you look at Google, for example. Fast is better than slow. What does fast is better than slow mean if you're really, really doing it in your company? That essentially means you tolerate risk, right? You tolerate that somebody makes a fault, right? Because you say speed is more important than that everything is okay. Try it out, do a mistake. If the mistake, fine, we correct it. But please don't do one thing. Don't do the same mistake twice. Yeah? You can make the mistakes. You can push, but don't do the same mistake twice, but push fast. We want fast results, right? And this cascades down. You will see later on how they incentivize people, how performance management is done, which is completely different. Again, not rocket science, but completely different from how you most probably, all of you, are measured performance management wise. Then they say, Google, there's always more information out there. What does this mean? This is a data company, right? Everything they do based on data. If you want to do data, we talked about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence only works if you have masses of data. The biggest problem with artificial intelligence currently is that you cannot collect enough data, or to a certain degree it's even monopolized with certain people. So you need to collect data, right? They collect data and they analyze data. They go very, very far there, especially also in, they use hundreds of KPIs even in their HR to find out if an employee is at the right place in the company. Huh? So his talent is allocated right. If he performs well, and this is all like everybody is a kind of data pool here. So customers are data pool, employees are data pool. Think about it, they bought Nest, so now sensors become data pools. All is about data, right? This is built in their philosophy, and this is they encourage you as each and every employee to gather new data, right? So this is not just I write down a key belief. They really live this, right? They really, really live this. If you go to Amazon, even more interesting, they say customer obsession. Customer obsession, okay. It's customer-centric. I know it, every company is customer-centric, yes? Heard it a couple of times. What does customer obsession mean? Do you think Amazon is customer obsessed? I truly think they are customer obsessed. Well, why do you think they are customer obsessed? Well, none of you has worked in Amazon, I assume, right? So you don't know the internals. Right? But you see the output, right? If you go to Amazon, biggest assortment in e-commerce you can get, right? Up to the lowest prices you can get. The shortest delivery times you can get on the market. Okay, yeah? They seem to do things differently. If you see how they operate, if you've ever seen a warehouse of Amazon, you are simply flashed, right? All these robots who go there, they completely change the way logistics is done, right? They move to Coatic, or chaos, you call it, chaos storage. I don't know whether the right term. So normally you would say, okay, here's a shelf. Here I put all the pens in. Here's a shelf. I put all the paper in. Here's a shelf. Whatever I put in. They said, no. Here's a shelf. I put everything in. But everything has a tag, right? And so the computer or the robot finds where to go. It's much faster, right? This is the way, if they talk about customer obsession, it goes really down to logistics. It goes down to warehousing, what these guys are doing. And also the way they address markets, right? You use Amazon Web Services or not? Well, you know about it. Anyone who uses Amazon Web Services, right? I think per year, I don't know whether it's true for this year, per year, 100 or more price changes. And always down, not up, down, 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 down. They're brutally adjusting to the market, so the customer always knows with Amazon, I get the best price, right? And with this, they obviously kicked out smaller competitors in the market, only the big ones, which have the right storage capabilities, or you have scale on infrastructure, can compete with them. ThinkBack is nice. Invent and simplify, this I like very much. Why do I like it very much? Because here, this is the 10x guys, the Google ones, 10x, so 10 times of what I have achieved now, very bold, right? These autonomous cars, Google Glasses, and all the stuff they have developed. Good, cool, right? Amazon says also invent and simplify, but it's a different way of inventing and simplify. Both work with technology, but with Amazon, it's the way, okay, how can I get my stuff faster to the client? How can I do even small things cheaper, right? If you look at what you are doing, I'm 100% sure you easily find 3 things in what you're doing, which you know already you could do better, faster, or cheaper, which would cost the company less. They have really, this is in the mindset of each of the Amazon guys. It goes so far that they say, so simplify an event can be cost efficiency, right? Does not necessarily have to be Google Glasses or 10x. Make this process faster. Make us be cheaper in delivering things to the customer. And if you want to be, in this way, simplify and innovate, make a process easier, you're also very close to frugality. So what you think an Amazon VP, if he flies from US to Turkey, where does he sit in the plane? Right? Where does he sit? Sorry? Exactly. All executives, economy class, right? Goes like that. But these guys are very well paid. So I mean, they save money for the cost, but they get good salaries, right? No question. Especially if the company performs, people get restricted stock options. They really benefit from the growth. And Amazon has done the most disruptive thing I have personally seen. And I don't know how this Jeff Bezos really was able to do this. He told his shareholders, and he's doing this since years, no profitability. Since years, no profitability. Think about this. You go to, if you're on the board, ever talk to a board and tell them, what I know, no profitability. Next year, no profitability. The year, no profitability. No. I reinvest every cent I gain through reinvention, simplification, and frugality. I invested in 2 things. One in the customer, and second in new growth field in the company. Right. And this is how this company grows grew so significantly. Right. Super disruptive, super disruptive. I don't know really how he did it with his shareholders, but I mean, if you do this 5 years and people see the share price is rising, it really works. They have trust. But the first 5 years, cool thing, I would say. Okay, so this is not something on paper here, right? This is how these guys live. Huh? And I know a couple of former employees of me who work for Amazon now. They say, Carmichael, this is what you see here, right? This is the first thing you get. You get a kind of Bible, leadership principles. And if you are there, the first half an hour, you see your colleagues behave like this, right? All of them behave like this. Then you're part of the culture. And everything, strategy and culture, same direction, yeah? Good. This is now fine. This is how these guys work. Maybe they are super trooper. The question is, for me, as a traditional company, how do I get there, right? Nothing which will work overnight. Digital transformation takes time, without question, because it has so much different facets and it has some fundamental changes which need to be done. Okay, what does a traditional company do if it comes to transformation or cultural change? project management office responsible for a transformation program, right? CEO message, we want to transform, right? Because whatever new competitors, we have heard about all this digital stuff, we transform. Yeah? Unfortunately, it does not work that way, right? Oliver showed these examples already of SAP companies who disappeared. He also mentioned that most transformation projects fail, yet they fail. Because if you need to change the culture, the way people operate, the way people work, you cannot just push down a top-down message from CEO and then have a project management office run this project and it works. Or appoint a chief digital officer, we had this yesterday, right? And leave everything to him. That does not work that way. That simply does not work that way, right? What is better? I would not say it's the recipe for everything, but is first to think about which organizational barriers are there currently which prevent us from being agile, obsessive. Where is what we do different from what these Google, Facebook, Amazons are doing from a process perspective, from a structural perspective. We a little bit discussed it yesterday in terms of tribes and squads. So now almost all companies are organized. We have a marketing function, a sales function, a finance function, an IT function, blah, blah, blah. And then we have this going up the ladder, down the ladder stuff. You can be very radical, right, in this aspect. And I mentioned it yesterday. You can say, okay, I don't want these functional silos anymore. For certain products I develop, I just pool people. So I have a group where there is 1 or 2 guys with marketing capabilities, as many as I need. Two guys with any technical capabilities, one guy with IT capabilities, and so on. If you need a finance guy for certain things, you need a finance guy, you bring him in, right? But these guys are not reporting to their marketing boss, to their finance boss, but they are kind of encapsulated in this kind of team, and this team has end-to-end responsibility to bring the product on the market, right? So these bottlenecks or breakpoints in the process flow, you avoid them because the whole team is responsible for bringing this product on the market. The whole team has all the capabilities it needs to bring the product on the market. With this, it's very difficult to blame IT for not being fast enough. Right, and it's very difficult, or it's much more difficult, or it's much more easier to align the market side, the marketing people or the sales people, with how the IT or other functions deliver in the market. So you always have to look a little bit at: are there organizational barriers, or are there informal things in the company which really prevent you from doing this? Normally, digital transformation means you need to change the mindset of people. That works. I will show you examples. It's not that people are unwilling to do digital transformation. I can prove that with a couple of statistics will you see during this presentation. People are really willing, right? And this is good. Good. You need to change governance, the way you incentivize people. And you need to change the talent strategy, obviously, to upskill people and also bring new people in the company. But what is essential is that with a digital transformation, you do not have either a top-down or a bottom-up message of cultural change. You have to go through each layer. And by the way, it starts with the board. I have no board member here, but it starts there and goes up to the security stuff in your company. But how is change really done? When are you open to follow people? Maybe not because you see a PowerPoint slide, right? Maybe not this fancy email from your CEO. You build emotional bonds to people. This is the biggest motivator ever for people. So digital transformation obviously needs the support from a CEO. He has to put off his tie, no question. We need the ping pong table, we need the rest, but we also need ambassadors in the company. And there are, in almost every company, there are certain digital talents who already have these behaviors, right? You do not have to learn them, right? bring them a little bit up the iceberg, right? So that people see. Make them the ambassadors, right? And then they teach others, and they teach others, so it gets kind of, call it an avalanche, or however you call it. But it comes from people who are authentic. It comes, we have to select the people who are motivational enough to transfer their passion to other people. That's much better than sending 10 emails or doing a PowerPoint presentation. It's called authentic informal leaders you have to choose. This is not what is done in typical transformation projects. This is not what is done. In normal transformation project, there's a project management office who has to deal with everything. Or there is the CDO, Chief Digital Officer, you are responsible for digital, you will do it. No, it's a mixture between top-down, bottom-up, building emotional links. And again, it's not rocket science, right? You need just to know what to do, right? And the way you do it. And I'm pretty much sure that in almost each and every company there are these authentic leaders. There are already digital talent. They know how to maneuver in the digital world. And what goes together with this, if you ask managers, this is Russell Reynolds' Digital Pulse survey with 1,500 senior executives. They were asked, what do you think is a stronger bottleneck with regards to digital transformation? It's most probably not that there is no strategy. Interestingly, also not leadership seems to be the biggest problem. These guys, so this is 50% said, lack of skills, right? Okay, I would have expected this. But almost 50% says organizational inertia and functional silos. This is why I said the very beginning point of a digital transformation, if you really want to break things up, right, you need a strategy, that's clear. But if you really want to change things or break things up, you need to work on these things, organizational inertia and functional silos. If you don't change the dimension, the scope of the box you are working, it's very difficult to transform. You always approach the borders, right, right and left. Okay, and you can start, or maybe not you, this is now more addressed to your CEO. I would just ask for your daily practice, so how many hierarchical layers do you have? How is your reporting structure? How many people are in the reporting structure? How many times do you meet? Because you have to align marketing, IT, finance, and others. How many kind of coordination bodies do you have? How many procedures do you need that these people not work naturally together, right? But need really processes to work together? Ask yourself this question. And I'm quite sure what the answer is in most companies. So, what is the answer to this? How can you heal this? Become lean, right? So, I mean, have less hierarchical layers, for example. Now you tell me, hey, we are 10,000 people, we are 50,000 people, right? We are a super huge organization. It needs hierarchical layers. Huh? Young man, I'm not so young, but young man, it needs hierarchical layers, right? Okay. This is one of the biggest Chinese handset manufacturers, right? Xiaomi. Most probably you have heard about them, right? They have 3 management layers, and they have tens of thousands of employees. They have 3 management layers. And the top on top is the CEO, right? So there are only 2 others. Well, that's possible. There are even more, I leave it out, more drastic concepts here, like holacracy also, where you only have a CEO or CFO formally, because for legal reasons you need them. Might not be relevant for you, but big companies, 3 management layers, right? 3 management layers. It's possible, right? I always say this, your board guys, your CEO, your senior management, they should know this, right? I think all these excuses I hear why digital transformation or other stuff not working in companies might be the case. Maybe you don't know, simply don't know what's possible, right? It's possible, big company, right? And this is not a Silicon Valley company, by the way. This is a company from China, right? Where, if I conclude this, my personal forecast is the next Silicon Valley will be in China, not in US. Also, unfortunately, not in Europe. So it's very wise to look into China. But going back to the US, right? What I really like, and this is what all of you somehow who have a responsibility for people, even if it's a small responsibility, can do. I like this very much from saying from Jeff Bezos. If there are more than 2 pizzas in the room for your team, right? Then the team is too big. Yeah, it's good. I like it very much. So I don't know how it is with you, but I know from large corporations, 10 people in a room, nothing. 15 people in big meetings, nothing. I have seen even situations where, because if people work with external, companies work with external people or consultants, there were 15 people and 8 were consultants, right? And 7 only from the company. It goes like this, right? And then this is a big multi-billion-dollar company I'm now talking about. So, simple rule, but this is the way how these guys run the company with hundreds of thousands of people, right? It's possible, very easy. Everybody can implement this. Tribes and squads, which I mentioned earlier, these are very fundamental changes. This is different from what you see here. If you really touch fully the organizational structure beyond delayering, if you really find a completely new way of working, this needs to be thought through very well. And I would not say this is a recipe for each and everybody, but to move in this direction is, I think, essential. Yeah. Good. All nice. We have heard about these ambitious statements, the key beliefs or leadership principles which really are lived in these companies. But still, I would say we are human, right? To a certain degree, we are not only want fun, but we want reward, right? Emotional reward, financial reward, or other reward. This is the steering mechanism, right, for how we behave. And I like the saying very much from this guy. I didn't know him before, David Lee, COO and CFO, interesting combination, of Impossible Food. He says, culture is what gets rewarded. I personally think he's right. Culture is what gets rewarded. Okay, you get a salary. That's clear. But it's not only the salary. It's the way how I treat you. Or in a meeting, who has more speaking time. All right? What's your social status in the company? I'm pretty sure that all of you here not necessarily took the job with the highest pay, but with the best environment, or where your talent fit best, or where your boss somehow, even on a social basis, promotes you, right? Or how your career, where you can have a faster career progress, independent of salary. So reward is very central, right? Now, how you are rewarded? I mean, I assume most of the companies have performance management, right? So I don't know, most of you might have a basic fixed salary and then a variable salary, which is dependent on how you perform, right? Oh, this is the normal thing. How is this process done? Sorry?
Business results, KPIs.
KPIs, exactly. So if we now would go for next year, end of 2018, you would sit with your boss, right? And there are certain KPIs which are normally kind of predefined, top-down, cascade. You have revenue, whatever, cost, or time to market, or whatever KPIs. Okay, this happened end of this year. And then you meet your boss most probably again with regards to this performance management end of 2019. And then you see, okay, what kind of KPIs did you reach? And then your salary is kind of calculated with it. Yeah, I think that's what you find in 90% of traditional companies. So now assume you are in a market which is super dynamic. In this year, 2 new competitors, which brought 3 new products to the market, which revolutionized, like Amazon, the times to delivery to your customer, right? Unfortunately, in your KPI system, this is not reflected. unfortunately, to compete with these guys, it's not only your KPI system, but yours, all is impacted. But shit, we meet again end of 2019, right? So not really agile, the way performance management is done normally in companies. The way performance management is done in LinkedIn, Google, and more startups is a methodology which is called OKR, Objectives and Key Results. Very simple. Again, you don't need a PhD in mathematics for this. Comparably easy to implement. They start with things which everyone would agree. Their objectives is a kind of qualitative statement. I will show you one example now. For example, for a CEO, he has delight your employees, right? Could be one of the objectives next to whatever financial objectives he has. For a content marketing person, so lower management level, it could be improve the blog of your company, right? Make it better. And then what you do, you define key results, which exactly show you what means improve the blog. You can say, I will show it, I'll give you an example here. This can mean publish 50 new blogs per quarter, do 5 VIP interviews, get 5,000 subscribers on the blog. Again, nothing super new, but it's clear, right? You have one objective, this is clear. This is very measurable, right? This is not any fancy indicator. It's clear, and what you see is, you see here something strange, it's Q3, right? You don't find this in your performance management system. Because your performance is for 2019 defined. So here you start to say something seems to be different. Maybe it's even, if it's better structured. What is the 3 things which differentiate OKR from normal performance management systems is, first, these objectives and the key results are only defined on a quarterly basis, right? So if we see a new competitor comes to the market, new product is there, or my competitor has a new service faster to the market, after 3 months, right, I can try to adjust. I can try to adjust. So on a 3-month basis. Since these are very simple KPIs, it's not very difficult to adjust them. Since these KPIs are super measurable, right, you see what you delivered. Even in a situation where, for example, there's no new competitor, there's no external market stimuli, you see after 3 months whether the content marketing guy got another 5,000 subscribers, right? Whether he acquired these VIPs. So after 3 months you see, okay, either my objective was right or wrong, it was not ambitious enough, or we see a deficiency and we can try to correct this deficiency quite early. You don't need to do it on a 3-month basis. We'll see you can do it even more on a continuous basis. But this is just to show you this makes it different from a traditional performance management system. Then, do you know the KPIs of your colleague? Do you know it? Exactly what the KPIs are? Do you know the KPIs of the finance department? Do you know the KPIs of the sales guy? Do you know the KPIs of your CEO? No. Okay, the normal traditional performance management. OKR makes everything transparent, right? We had this example here. Okay, this is a simple one. Delight your employees. It's the KPI for CEO. It says introduce bi-weekly management feedback loops. Bi-weekly management feedback loop, you can measure it, whether the CEO has done this, right? Hold whatever monthly all hands town hall meeting, you know whether he has done it. You know whether he followed his own goal. It's very transparent. What's the benefit of it? If you collaborate cross-function wise, right? You see that the objectives are aligned, right? Or you see easily the objectives are not aligned. Since you can change them every 3 months, you can align them, right? So especially if you need people from other departments, because normally if you head of a department, right? For example, I led a marketing department. I had no influence on the KPIs of the sales department, right? I have, as a marketing guy, no influence on the KPIs of the IT department.
maybe these objectives are not aligned, right? If I make them transparent, if I make them to be changed on a 3-monthly basis, and if they are operational, right, it results in a completely different way how you run a company. It's simply KPIs, you would say, but it's leadership philosophy, which is behind here. So it's every 3 months, every quarter. It's public, right? It's somehow aligned, individual behavior and company goals, but it's transparent, right? If there are discrepancies, you see. And what's interesting now, these companies don't use these objectives and key results for calculating your bonus. This is something separate, right? I told you in the beginning, not everything is financially motivated. Assume this would be completely independent. It's not in reality, but it would be completely independent of your bonus or your salary. I guarantee you, majority of people, since it's made transparent if you achieved an objective or not, independent of any monetary incentive, they will follow it. It's simply social pressure, right? Because everything is made transparent. But this is good because if it's not directly linked to compensation, you can follow the logic here, and the logic is here, the objectives and key results you define are very ambitious, right? In the end, it's only expected that you deliver them by 70%. If you look at your performance measurement criteria, you always want to get 100% because this is linked to your salary, right? So everybody in this process tries to manipulate these systems that you get 100%, right? Some are smarter, some are less smarter, but this is the way how performance management goes here. You decouple it. You decouple it. And again, there is social pressure, or you want to be, you would be socially rewarded. Everything is transparent. This drives behavior without investing a single penny. Yeah? So this is, again, it's not rocket science. You can implement these things with, I think, there's not even a huge, big, advanced IT system. You can do it with Google spreadsheets. I think that is, I don't know whether Google is doing it, but a couple of companies are doing it. No fancy IT behind it. But in general, it's a different management philosophy. I will not go into detail. There's some experience how you should do it. But what's important is, if you look at your existing performance management system, it's performance appraisal once per year. If you move over to this new systems, you have a quarterly check with adaptive goal setting. So you get much more flexible. Yeah? Feedback collection by manager end of the year in the old system. Here, continuously, there are even companies who do this app or tool supported because all goals are transparent, right? So the guy with the blog, the content blog, you know how many subscribers are on the blog now, right? You can see it. Everybody can see it. You can kind of monitor it. More or less in real time. If you have this kind of system, and I've been part of an implementation of this OKR system in a big company, you also change the way you talk to your people, right? So I started to introduce first 2 weekly, then later monthly feedback loops with all my direct reports. So I reserved in my calendar every Friday 1 hour, right, with each of my direct reports. Bi-weekly didn't work out. There was not enough to talk about, but every month, yes. I gave them a direct feedback. And they were sitting there saying, one of the guys even came to me and said, I want this, please, 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 give me the feedback. So this starts to change the way you lead. You lead people. Okay, individual goals, confidential versus public. Also, there is a tendency now that it's not so much what you deliver, but what your team delivers, which is in the KPIs. I mean, you can have this or another opinion on it, but it's a kind of tendency you find there. And there are a couple of other things which are relevant here. Very simple thing, right? Very simple thing. But if you start to implement it, you start the cultural change, right? So you have your core beliefs now. You change your incentive system. Now it gets going. The avalanche starts to move or starts to run. What else does it need? I will not elaborate too much in detail in it, but I don't like the saying you need new leaders, because I think that's wrong, but I think current leadership practices have also have to change, right? But it's not that I say to you now, do things differently. Assume you have the cultural roof, right? You have the key beliefs. You have an incentive systems like OKR. You're automatically somehow dragged into a new leadership style. And what is this leadership style? We saw with Google, fast is better than slow, right? And I told you, what does it mean? It has upsides and downsides. The downside is you can make a mistake because you are faster. You are not scrutinizing everything or planning everything in every detail, right? If this is the case, then your leaders need to tolerate risk, right? And ambiguity, right? If you have to make fast decisions in a dynamic environment, you do not know exactly where it goes. Maybe you don't have 3 months' time to develop a sophisticated business plan, which is obsolete anyhow in a dynamic environment after 6 months, right? So this is a big change. This is a big change, and people need to be trained. It takes time, but I think almost every existing leader can get some of these can get some of these traits. Show resilience in the face of constant change. Yeah, if the wind is really blowing, it's really storming, if things really didn't went well, you have to be able to change the ship, right? I don't know whether you recall how Facebook's business was originally developed. It was fully web-centric, right? Your laptop PC. And then for 1 year, they completely missed out this everything is mobile wave. And I know that was 2012. I was at the World Mobile Conference for Telecom in Barcelona. These super slightly arrogant Facebook guys, they would try to get in contact with each and every telecom player. They were really nice. You could really saw, okay, damn shit, a storm has hit this ship, right? But they turned it around, right? Then this Mark Zuckerberg, whatever you think of him, said, okay, no, I made a mistake. And he said this openly, right? I made a mistake, right? Now we focus everything on mobile. He completely turned the direction of the ship to mobile. And now Facebook is, think about advertising in mobile, right? A big issue, even for Google, right? There are now these display ads where you make money with normally on a big screen. You cannot show them on a tiny, small mobile screen. The only one who shows you a full picture advertisement currently, or one of the only ones, is Facebook. Yeah, because in your timeline, in your newsfeed, it's a full picture advertising. There's no company who can monetize advertising in mobile, this classical digital advertising mobile, better than Facebook. So he completely turned the ship, and he came from web, right? He came from banner ads and these kind of stuff. But he was able to maneuver the ship in very stormy times, and not in this dramatic circumstances, but also in challenging circumstances. Leaders really need to be resilient. You need to handle increased complexity. Okay, this is clear. What I like is about challenge the status quo. That is not very difficult. I once built up an innovation center and led an innovation department. The first thing I did, I put on my wall, handwritten, right? Handwritten in big letters. This Apple slogan, think different, right? Should grammatically correct, I think, should have think differently, but think different. I put it there, right? That was my statement. And in every of my management or leadership meetings in the beginning, I asked people, you do it that way? Can we also do it another way? I didn't have the answer. I asked them, right? And I asked people and asked them. And after a while, 2-3 weeks, people came with some slight ideas. After 3 months, people came with bigger ideas. And after 6 months, people came with disruptive ideas where I said, oh, I'm scared, I cannot implement them. But it works, right? It works. So challenge the status quo. Everybody can do this. What's most probably the biggest challenge is if, as a manager, if you go up the hierarchy, right, you need, I would say, certain traits normally. Huh? If you are somehow in the C-suite, you're not normally a guy who has been friendly to everybody. Put it like this. In German, you have to say harte Bandagen. I don't know what the English expression for this is. But normally, the higher the ranks are, the less collaboration you really have. Because much more at stake, right? The higher you come, the easier they can fire you, put you out of your position, you lose a big salary, blah, blah, blah. So collaboration here, collaborate with ease across teams is a big challenge because as managers we were trained for years, right, to compete not only against competitors, but maybe one of the biggest traits in companies to compete against your peers to a certain degree. To change this mindset, right, I would start with all the rest, and in the end, hopefully, this comes. This is still a big challenge, right? You can easily put it on a slide, but there are people who are very smart, who are able, also on a peer level, where you don't have people who are directly reporting to you on a peer level, can maneuver people. And I think the smartest guys are the ones who build coalitions, right? And this is about kind of collaboration. And this has to be cascaded down on each and every management.
One question, Carmichael. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned OKR, but in this system you could also certainly implement team goals to foster collaboration. For example, I once promised or proposed in a larger transformation program to set the transformation goals basically into the individual goal agreement, let's say, of the top management, and couple. My proposal was 80% of their bonus to reaching the overall goal. So it was rejected. We both know the company. But this was really, yeah, I had some problems afterwards with my, let's say, with the people I worked there, because they didn't like the idea that like 80% of their bonus was basically linked to the achievement of the overall goals. Yeah? But this would have fostered collaboration significantly, I would guess.
I think two answers to this. First of all, I mean, meanwhile this company became wiser. I think they even eliminated any kind of individual goals. Yeah. If this is the right solution, I don't know. But I can tell you, because how we say, do what you preach. In 2012, when I took over a quite heterogeneous team of people, there were people from strategy, from innovation. I had very operational people from marketing, channel management, digital marketing, corporate communication, blah, blah, a bunch of people where you say, oh, strange, how you can bundle it under one umbrella. I thought about it a year, how we can incentivize collaboration. Then what I did, I put a KPI on myself, right? And I said, now it's beginning of the year, right? Let's have a questionnaire and ask people, how do you think is your collaboration within your team? How is your collaboration with the other teams in my area? How is your collaboration with other teams in the company? And 2 or 3 questions. You could answer this in 3 minutes, right? The same questionnaire I used at the end of the year to see the difference, right? And I gave me all my direct reports and all employees a goal, and say, we have to, or we should increase this indicator, which we call it collaboration indicator, by X, Y, Z. I don't know what it was, 5 or 10%. Originally, I thought this is very naive, because I do a questionnaire. In the end, people, the better the index is, so the higher they will definitely, so they have an incentive to, at the end of the year, to say collaboration is super, right? Because they get more money. In this system, the KPI was collecting money. What interestingly happened, and I think this is what management normally underestimates, people really think collaboration is key. So they gave me an honest answer. They didn't inflate this collaboration. And you see, we saw it increasing year by year, but on a small basis, but realistically, like 2, 3, 5%, right? Although they could gain more money if they would have said everything is super, higher KPI achievement, more bonus, people were honest. Huh? I mean, that's a proof that people really seek for collaboration. And they really liked that it's not just saying of you should collaborate together, I can say this. He said, okay, this guy's earnest. Huh? He takes it serious, right? He puts it into his incentive scheme, he puts it into his leader's incentive scheme, he puts it into every employee's incentive scheme. Somehow these things just work from an emotional perspective. Good. People and skills. Now, my biggest challenge is how to shorten this up. Yeah, the challenge is because I think it's one of the most essential things. People and skills. Do you know what kind of skills, or do your company know what kind of skills you would need in 3 years? Partly. Partly is good. What do we say? Partly 20%, 80%? Okay. If you look at your workforce composition now, and maybe how the workforce composition should be in 3 years, where do you think would be the biggest changes in terms of new capabilities which would be needed?
We know that we need to invest more in digital skills, like data front. On data front, on connectivity front, well,
yes.
Speaking technically, but also we're investing heavily on the collaboration skills,
Yeah.
design thinking, and well, there are a few other titles that I can nail down, but everything can't be foreseen.
That's cool. How do you implement this? If you have already a kind of clear picture, which is very good.
Well, we do have a development plan for a selected bunch, which we would call the digital ambassadors.
Yeah.
And then we are going to trickle it down to the grassroots. So we start with a bunch of selected, motivated people, and then I think it will take us approximately 1.5 to 2 years to get everybody then trained. But we will only see it happen when the learning turns into behavior. So that we're going to measure through the performance system with OKR.
Yeah. So which company are you working for?
I work for Arçelik.
Oh, you seem to be very advanced. I also talked to you. What was the board member we talked yesterday? Seems to be a very digital person, which is the exception, to be honest, if I talk to people. But this is impressive. What you see here, you will be. I will bore you now because you might know this already. But let's go into numbers. So I took an example from the telecom industry. CSP is communication service provider, so telecom company in general. So here's a comparison about the job postings in a telecom company. Telecom companies are already close to digital, right? You would say, right? And here is are the job postings of Silicon Valley, a typical Silicon Valley company, right? So how many engineers, IT, sales, customer service, and other people you want to hire? And you see one significant difference, right? These telecom service providers, 45% of their job posting is for sales and customer service people, right? In digital companies, only 13%, right? 5% in telecom is for engineering and IT. Yeah? Maybe they have already a lot of engineers, right? If they have a lot of IT people, I doubt. Here, 51% is in Silicon Valley company. They are searching for engineering and IT. Dramatic, right? Think about your company wants to be data-centric. We talked about Industry 4.0. It's data is at the center. You need to have the data in place, the analytic capabilities, and so on, right? You need people who work with data. 45 were the 13, 5 were the 51. This shows you how dramatic the change is. And what these guys who are already not advanced in terms of digital, which way they have to go. Obviously here everything is done manual, or not manual, it's done face-to-face. You call a call center if you have a problem with your rate plan in telecom, or if you want to get a line installed, blah, blah, blah. Does Facebook have a call center? Does Google have a call center? No. Why don't they need a call center? Because they invested before in the UX and UI design of their websites. So you do not need this, right? Huh? Same you have with Apple, not good call centers normally. But you rarely have to call them, right? So here, these guys hire people predictively who avoid that you have to call the company. These guys try to fix problems. Huh? So, but dramatic, huh? 45, 13. How do these guys get to 51? Huh? Not an easy exercise. Not an easy exercise, right? Completely new job profiles will appear. This is an example from a World Economic Forum study. Digital account manager, chief data officer, service designer. You can go into each functionality, commercial, technology, web marketing. Completely new job descriptions will appear. Look at the job description in your company, compare them with these job descriptions. This gives you first indication how far you are with your HR development program. And normally you know exactly what skills these guys have to have: soft skills, whatever, big data skills, web and media skills, and so on. So you need to have a plan, right? To hire people is not going overnight. So you need 2-3 years plans, or an idea how you want to hire these people. And this goes very much in line with what you said. Here, managers were asked. Is again, because I have now one example from telecom. This is from the telecom industry. What is the most demanded capabilities? Where the biggest shortage in the market? Not surprising, it's in big data. It's in lean, interesting. You talked about design thinking, lean. So you need to understand and know digital methods, right? You need to know how to apply them in the company. Big data, infrastructure, digital processes. Not new, you might say. I have seen this a couple of times. I know this. But what's done on the ground? What's done in your company on the ground to fill this gap? Huh? To get the 51% engineering and IT talent you need to abandon your call center. What are you doing? Huh? This is not a thing which goes with the classical way of hiring, recruiting, upskilling people, right? You need to think about this. So there are two reactions to this. Either you ignore, or you say, okay, I'm a small SME manufacturer in a rural town in Germany or in Turkey. I don't get digital talents. Huh? So you want to surrender? I think everybody has a brain, right? And like OKR is not rocket science, right? Everybody could have invented it. Just use your brain, right? Use your brain. Even in the most rural area, maybe there are biggest brain talents, right? Use your brain. Huh? And then you come up with something very simple, I would say. Or I would say it's kind of simple. What you have to do, you have to develop your people. You have to hire new people. And there are ways to intelligently augment your workforce. Fully clear. Okay, let's go one layer deeper. How can I hire talents? Mine your own organization for hidden talents. There are talents you don't know. If you have 10,000 employees, you don't know what other departments are doing, right? You don't know where your talents are. Definitely not on the higher ranking levels where the decisions are made about allocation of people. You have to upskill your people, very important, because what everybody first thinks, I have to hire now a bunch of digital talent, digital natives. They are not this much digital natives out there, right? And you have an existing workforce, right? And people are not stupid. People are even willing to go for digital transformation. So upskilling is very important. I will give you examples on what I mean concretely with this. And then there are more, with the help of technology, you can build talent marketplaces, which makes really transparent what kind of talents you have in the company, and if they're available for a project. Same with hire and augment the workforce. Let's dive a little bit into, I would not say, dive into upskill your people. People, everybody is afraid to a certain degree of change, right? Everybody feels, if I know how things are going, I feel more comfortable, right? Change means new effort. I don't know whether I will master the change, and so on. But with this digital transformation, it's meanwhile the case that even the most conservative people think, can I really ignore this? No, most probably not. So more than 80% of employees acknowledge that digital technology will transform the way they work in the next 3 years. It's very important, right? So the first barrier is already removed, right? The natural resistance because of you are afraid of change. 70% of employees, according to this European study from Accenture, says employees assess new skills and capabilities they will require in the future. They do it. You do it. It's not you wait for the next program from HR for the next training. You do it proactively, right? So there's a sense of urgency in there. And 70% really proactively learn new digital tools and skills by themselves, right? Not because the HR or your employer asks you to do this. So there's a much stronger willingness, right? And these are people from all ages, right? There's a much stronger willingness to go for digital transformation than you think. Work with this as a company, right? So you don't have to run super trooper motivation programs for your people. People know that there is a sense of urgency built on this, yeah? So there are a couple of things you have to learn: soft skills, hard skills. You talked about design thinking. Cannot go into detail. Collaborative work, entrepreneurship. You can teach this, right? You can give coaches, especially to the middle management. General Electric, for example, they've installed with their digital program 500 coaches, so people who coach the middle management, right? So that they are able to apply design thinking definitely for collaborative work and give them entrepreneurial drive. So in one-to-one coaching sessions. Obviously you need hard skills, data analytics, coding, IT engineering. I don't mean that everybody has to become a coder, right? But at least you should be a little bit more familiar with statistics, even if you don't like it at school, because it's not this qualitative judgment anymore. In more and more management meetings or decisions, it's really kind of fact or database. So you should at least understand the basics how this goes. And important, it starts from the top, C-suite and boards. If you're a CEO, you've served in your company for a longer time, you have lots of experience, which can be good, but if disruption comes, can also be a burden, right? You think and behave in certain traditional manners. Every CEO has heard about digital transformation. Most of them talk about it, but really very few have ever worked in a startup or know what's really going on in Silicon Valley. Okay, so no, you don't wear a tie. But a deep understanding is not there. Not because these people are too stupid. If you're in a situation of a CEO, the amount of data decisions you are confronted with in these dynamic times is enormous, right? You don't have time to read 3,000 studies. You don't have time to do an apprenticeship in a startup. Simply impossible, right? Well, nothing to blame. But these guys need coaches, right? These guys need to listen to this presentation maybe more than you have to listen to this presentation. Then they will start to understand. And it needs executive coaching called. Can also be technology immersion workshops, but also on operating model. There are other things you can do. I will give you little insights on MOOC, so massive online courses training. So if you go from top down to the bottom hierarchy, to the bottom of your organization, you obviously would have to teach people how to maneuver in a digital world of digital skills, but you also use digital methods to teach the people, right? So it's not necessarily only a personal one-to-one course, but Deutsche Telekom, for example, has massively introduced these training sessions for them. All IP technology, internet technology is important for more or less all employees. So like like they have tailored online courses on all relevant subjects which regards to digital transformation. And people can go through these courses whenever they want, right? They can do it on a Sunday, well, they can do it during work time. Then it's monitored whether you participated in these courses. So also the employer knows whether you have gone through these courses, these web courses, so whether you skilled up. And you can use this for a couple of things. I think what's also cool, they use their employees now as ambassadors for new products or rate plans, right? Normally, if you are working, for example, in the finance department of a telecom company, you don't know what the sales and marketing guys do, right? You just walk in the street and say, oh, a Vodafone shop, new tariff offer, although you work for Vodafone, right? Here, they did couple of cool videos. So, and this is real time, right? You just distribute it to your staff in a kind of quiz gamification environment, so that the employees learned about this new tariff plan. If they learn about it, they can talk to their friends and can spread the news socially wise. So you can use these digital training technologies for a couple of things. Yeah, there is much more you can do with upskilling. Massive programs running, right? 2-3 years programs at big companies, maybe similar to what you have in mind. But there is an investment in the own people. Build a talent marketplace. What is a talent marketplace? The issue is if you have 10,000 or 100,000 employees, you don't know who has a talent, right? Why don't you use IT for this, right? If you look at, everybody has a LinkedIn profile. In your LinkedIn profile, there are certain competencies, right? Why not use something like this for your internal talent marketplace? Combine this information, the LinkedIn profile, with your personal availability, right? And then, for example, if I think in one of the slides you've presented, there was a good example. I'm an IT system integrator, and for a project in Russia, I need a Linux expert with Russian skills 15th of May. Think about it. How can you find it? Well, if you have this transparent here, you know what language skills the people have. So big companies are building these skill bases now. And again, if you combine it with the availability of people, then you can start these projects, which normally would take weeks. Here, this is a press on a button. So technology can help you here as well. Hiring new people, there are mainly 3 things. Not so easy to get digital talents. You can start from the top. So that's what a lot of companies are doing. They hire digital, so on senior level, they hire a digital guy. This digital guy has not only the competence, but he has also the network. So he takes people from his former employee with him. So you don't hire one person, you already hire with him a kind of his network. Similar is acqui-hiring here. If it's really difficult for you to get access to IT skills, then between 2010 and 2015, Google, Facebook, and these people, they hired companies, 60 or 100 companies to get developers in, right? It has advantages and disadvantages, but it's possible, right? If you don't find another way to do it, you can do it. And in the middle is the key question: how can I get hire digital talents? I don't know how easy it is in Turkey that you get the right IT talents. Assume it's not this easy. Huh? When we were starting our operation for digital service marketplace in Dubai, we had the CEO quite easily, who was a guy who worked for me before I had him, but then we were searching for a CCO and a CTO, right, with digital skills. Kind of, we looked all over Western Europe, Eastern Europe, had recruiting companies going into it. We looked into the Middle East, difficult stuff. But this took us, I think, 8 weeks. That was not in our plan, right? It took us 8 weeks before we found him. So first message, it was not very easy to find people. Second message, they are kind of already expensive, even if you go to to a startup scene. And third message is, where did we find them? In Turkey. Our CCO is from Turkey, and our CTO is from Turkey. This gives me confidence that you have a couple of very smart guys here on the ground, which you can hire for your operation, but you have to find them, right? And the way you find them is maybe different from standard HR processes. And this is the major message for, I skip this, is the major message for recruiting new digital talents. If you would do this systematically, right, what would you do first? What you do is, it's not that you sit in your chair and wait until these guys come with their nice application. You have a guy who's worked in Silicon Valley for 5 years, and the only thing he wants is to come to your company. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. So first thing, maybe I'm not waiting for him. I have to do the advertising. I'm after him. If I'm after him, what is this? This is what your marketing and sales guys do every day, right? They try to market your product to the customer, or they try to develop product for your customer, right? So here, just think of the digital talent as your customer. So the very first thing is you need to understand what the preferences of these people are, right? So that you can serve them. Very easy. So these guys may have different traits or behavior than a normal employee who also worked for 30 years in the company. These guys are tech savvy, right? I will tell you what this means for you. Normally they are very ambitious, that's very good. Still they want kind of work-life balance. They see their manager as a peer or coach. We saw this before in new leadership traits, right? They go from gig to gig, so not 5 or 10 years in the same position. And they seek a kind of higher purpose. You recall the very first slide from the Zappos guy, have fun, right? Huh? This is the way, to a certain degree, how you motivate people. It's not necessarily salary. If you go to Berlin, Berlin is full of startup scenes, right? These people earn significantly less money and work much, much more than people in corporate life. And I would still think they are happier, right? So it's not about money. So you need to understand whom you are going to. What does this mean? Let's take tech savvy and some of the other things. You can make this very operational, what this means for your recruiting strategy. Operationally, it means, okay, these guys, please don't put them in front of an old PC and let them work there. These guys want to work mobile. They want to work remotely with flexible time schedules anywhere. From anywhere. You need to bring your own device policy. You are from IT, you will love this because of all the security issues. Huh? But this is now the norm. It's not. In the beginning yesterday we had this discussion, but the IT security raises hands. Yeah, might be the case. But here the balance of power has changed, right? So now IT has to follow what the requirement of these people are. Otherwise, you don't get them because the Googles, the Facebook, the others. Who absorb 50% of all engineers in US, 50% go there, they offer this, right? So this is your competition, no question. Promote your workplace through social media, online network. I work for a consultancy, which belongs to Deutsche Telekom. And what I'm connected with most of my former direct reports and people on LinkedIn. Every day, at least 3 messages from them on what the company is doing, right? So it's not the classical old marketing communication department who drives it, the employee who drives. And they obviously, with this, they do advertisement for their company, the cool projects they are doing. And then monitor employer brand discussions on social platforms. How do young talents choose an employer? I mean, In my early times, I would go to a newspaper and see the job ads and then write a letter and blah, blah, blah. We know all this, this process. Today, it's like this, right? There are these job offer birds. This is the position. Here is your company rating in stars, right? And if you dig deeper, you see all the comments on your company. This is Glassdoor, this is Indeed. In Germany, you have Kununu. This is the way it works. If you have bad ratings there, you're wondering. It's nothing in your email inbox in HR. So you really need to moderate the dialogue here, right? And it's transparent, the way you are behaving. So your HR guys need to be on this platform. Mobile video training solutions we discussed already. Now one more thing. No, I don't show you. I show you. What is a classical interview technique, right? The HR guy calls the one who wants to come to your company. Then a meeting is agreed. Then there sits the HR guy, and then there sits the manager, right? And you do the interviews. If you've ever worked in consultancy, or you have this assessment centers, which the HR people like very much, which I think I'm not so favorite about. This is the classical way. Or at consultancies, they ask you, for example, we need smart guys, right? We need smart guys. How many tennis balls do fit on a tennis court, right? How many leaves does a tree have, right? How many containers or whatever shoes fit into a big ship, or these kind of stuff. Old style. The Google, the Facebooks, these guys said, I don't care necessarily too much about your university degree. I see on GitHub how you did, as a developer, how you programmed open source, and I let my IT people look at it, and they can tell me this is good code or not good code. Fine, I take this. And then the next thing I want to know whether you can work in teams and whether you fit to our teams. And a little bit to the extreme is what Zappos does, right? The first meeting with the company is not with the guy who is hiring you or your new boss. It's with the people you are working with. We meet them in a bar, right? Just to see whether the chemistry works. Totally informal, right? Next touch point is you fly in with plane, right? And the driver takes you from the airport to the headquarters of the building. They ask the driver how he was treated. There are these guys who are, oh, my boss, super. And if there's somebody below them, they treat them badly, right? You know, they ask the driver, right? Then, if you want to be customer obsessed or customer focused, nice on slides. If you put people in the first 4 weeks in the call center, where they take a call from the customer each and every day, after this they are customer focused because they understand the customer. They understand the complaints. And the most extreme thing, I don't know whether they're still doing it, is after 1 week in the call center, they ask the people, do you want to leave? I give you $3,000 if you leave. If you stay then, that means I don't care about the 3,000. This is my initial invest with staying. I invest $3,000, right? With staying. Then you know, okay, these guys are serious. Now look at the way HR normally operates. Completely different. This might be an extreme. Not everybody can do it. But this is what I mean with think differently. You can do it. You can go through this 9x9 matrix on all of these things. In all of these areas, you can do things differently. Not rocket science. Yeah?
An impressive example, by the way, regarding the call center topic. John Ledger, the CEO of T-Mobile US, when he started his job, he actually personally listened every day, several hours to call center conversations, and personally took the calls to understand what actually had to be improved in terms of products and services for the companies. And he came up with a complete new service offering, basically no lock-in in contracts and so forth. Yeah. This, he called this movement the Uncarrier movement, and he announced every month or so, or every 1, 2, 3 months, a new initiative changing the complete structure of the company. That was the basis of the success there. So he personally was hours each day at the front and urged his leadership team to do so.
Yes, and it had significant organizational implications because he changed how the call centers were run. Right? Normally, if you're in a call center, you have these different levels of support, right? Easy questions are answered by certain people. If it's too difficult, it gets to the next layer. And you call for the same problem twice, you talk to different people, completely change the setup, right? This is not there anymore. There are sales customer focused teams, 10 people who know exactly end-to-end the customer history, who can individually talk to these people. And originally, everyone said, oh, this is maybe not the most efficient way to this. He saved 10% costs and got consistently ranks top scores in customer satisfaction, better than any other mobile carrier in the US. So he listened what Oliver said, and then he implemented. He did it. He did organizational changes. He, again, did something different. No? It's not the standard practice because everybody says for efficiency reasons, I should have a couple of levels of support. Yeah. Maybe one of the last things I want to show you, this is about speed. Startup world is nice, but not always nice, right? Sometimes you run out of financing. Next financing round does not work. There's a company called SoundCloud. It's a kind of competitor to Spotify. Big company, right? Within the billions in terms of valuation. They came into very stormy weather, so they couldn't find investors for the next round anymore. So eventually, unfortunately, had to lay off 50% of their staff, right? Dramatic, right? And the staff all over the world. So, if you are in the HR department, what does it tell you? Most probably you would not have noticed it, right? You would not have noticed it. What happened here? A couple of employees put on LinkedIn this message, right? Unfortunately, we have to lay off 40% of staff. Here is a link to a list of these people. This is the list. So this is Mona, Sebastian, this is Greg, he's a data scientist. He's in New York City. His expertise level is delivery, data science, analytics. Not more. So what happened? This lady has not many, but she had 700 followers, right? Everybody of you have ever posted something on LinkedIn, what you normally get. If you get 5 or 10% likes, well, that's enormous. She got 675 likes, 188 comments. So this really went viral. I don't know whether it's true, but there are rumors that within 2 days, all developers had a new job. In 2 days, your HR department doesn't even notice that this has happened, right? This is the speed you have to go for if you want scarce digital talent. Those mean massive changes to the way you do HR or recruit people. Again, you can read this because you get all this material. It gives you even more insights what you need to do operationally here. Acquihire, we will skip. Collaborate with on-demand labor platforms. If you don't have the people yourself or cannot hire them, I mean, there are other people out which you can always use. And there are a couple of so-called on-demand platforms. One of the most prominent is Upwork. Here it's a platform where you find developers, right? It's kind of a marketplace for developers. Most of you might know it. Here are the skills. Again, like you find the skills on LinkedIn. Here you know the hourly rates. Here you know where they are located. Here's an evaluation of how they did their last job, right? Make the employment market much, much more transparent, allows you to hire. If your HR processes allow this, if your organization is geared to working with external people. This comes with a lot of questions, how to integrate them, how long they should stay, but it's there, right? So if somebody tells you, I cannot get a digital capability, I mean, if it's not on my own, there's a couple of things out there, and these platforms have different focus. There's TaskRabbit if you want to have not skilled, but whatever, a cleaner, mover or something, you can get it from TaskRabbit in the US. In Germany, you have a platform for routine work. online and offline work, it's click workers, and then maybe some of you have heard about Amazon Mechanical Turk, which is a strange thing because it's the opposite of AI, I would say, because there are a couple of things, humans, of very standard, easy tasks, which humans can do much better than robots, right? And this is why Amazon built this Mechanical Turk originally. So this is not well paid, but these are micro tasks. Whatever, go through certain lists and interpret the content, which normally AI cannot do, right? But even most stupid human can easily do. So this is done on Amazon Mechanical Turk. So there's a universe of external capabilities which you can also use for sourcing. That brings me to a different point, that the way how labor or work will be organized in the future more on a macro level, right? Either in 2025 or in 2013, 50% of all workforce, 50, in US will be freelancers. So not permanently employed. So we move, and if you're a company, right, we have this talent marketplace, from fixed workforce, you move to liquid workforce. Second, this clear role description which tells you this I have to do, but if this is not mentioned in my role description, I don't do it. There has to be somebody else in the company who has to do it. Forget about it. It's task-based, right? So you have to deliver certain things, and then you gather the capabilities in the company, and if you don't have it explicitly, you try to gain the skills. When there are, you can learn almost everything on YouTube, meanwhile, on a video. You can do it yourself, right? This is what will be required in the future. So you move from fixed role core team, flexible workforce, full-time, part-time, which is current practice, move to corporate talent network. So these internal marketplace, which I saw, to external talent network, which is Upwork, and you work with a mix of this. And one of the new tasks for HR is to manage this kind of portfolio. I'm coming back to my earlier question, right? There is this guy in Germany, SME, rural area, who tells you, I cannot get a digital talent. You have seen now a couple of things here. Where is it? Yeah. And this matrix, I doubt this. If anybody tells me he cannot get digital talent, I think he has not put enough effort into getting them. The probability is very, very low that with all of these 9 things, you don't find anything. I heavily doubt this, right? People just have to think, put on their brain, and implement. All these operational things I told you, what you can do, everybody can do it. Everybody can do it. There's no rocket science, right? So the problem seems bigger than originally thought of, to a certain degree. But on the other hand, think about, we have to get from 13% to 51%. So still a lot of work. You really have to move. Last thing I want to talk about, we had a lot of talk about AI, automation. I only want to highlight one thing here. So for example, using AI, here there's a virtual assistant in call center. So instead of a call center agent, you talk to this nice lady called Amelia. She understands what people ask and feel, so she has some kind of emotional intelligence, interacts more like a human, 24/7 available in all kinds of languages. Right? Whoever if anyone has operated a call center, multilingual, big issue, right? No question. 24/7 availability, yes. Well, you have to obviously pay for it. So I think, interestingly, a good concept. It works better than you would think in the beginning. What I found very interesting, and I can only agree, which is a practitioner. This guy here is from SEB Bank, right? Strategy and architecture. Normally you would say, okay, this lady is replacing a call center agent, right? This is the biggest thing, so I have cost advantages, right? I don't need this stuff. He says differently. The business case is not about efficiency, it's about scalability and the fact we have customer service solutions that we can roll out quickly. I mean, assume you're a company who brings in a new product or a new promotion every week, right? New promotion starts, customers have questions toward this promotion. If product is not super easy to explain, you need to train all call center agents. That does not work. That is a nightmare. And that's where the negative customer satisfaction score comes from. It's simply impossible. This lady, you train once. This is scalability. Immediately, when you have trained her, she learns also during the conversation, she's ready, right? Think about this. And I can only not agree more than it's not about cost saving, it's about speed or time to market. And this will be the reason why I think this kind of artificial intelligence solution or virtual agents will make their way, right? In a let's say, more easier form, we have this, the chatbots on Facebook, which were introduced last year, and they work very well. We have all this discussion about fake news now. So you really think you're talking with a human, or a human post certain things. So this is what we have to bear in mind. Maybe you have seen Pepper, also a cool thing. We'll not go into detail here. But one more thing, and then I close this chapter, is the question, and I mean the biggest fear about AI, will they replace human work? Will I have no job anymore? What will happen, right? I mean, it's a study from McKinsey which looked at certain, let's say, types of activities and said which types of activities might be replaced by artificial intelligence. And the three top things were data collection, data processing, and predictable physical work, which you find, by the way, in plants to a big degree. But data collection, data processing goes across the whole, let's say, internal services. This is purchasing, this is finance, all these marketing, all these people. So, two remarks on this. First, if it says 78% of, no, let's say 69% of data processing will be done, will be taken over by artificial intelligence. Does it mean I have no job anymore? I mean, you are, all of you are young. But when I was young, right, a calculator was introduced. My father was a professor. He had one of the first calculators. It would cost, a simple calculator would cost 1,000 euro in equivalent. It had this O and all this sinus function and that stuff. I say, hey, that's cool, right? Before there were people who were calculating manually or use abacus or something, right? So these people now use a calculator. Now we don't use a calculator, we use Excel. We use Excel, right? So we can do even more. So after Excel, we will use AI, right? So to a certain degree, I think there's too much fear created. Still, you need to be able, you need to move from how to work with a calculator to be able to handle Excel, right? These skills you need to gain and train, but it is not impossible. The same you will have with AI. You need to know how to program these guys, and program does not necessarily mean coding. You need to have need to put in specifications with a good user interface. You can do it. So 69% does not mean that 69% of the jobs will be obsolete. It just means that this specific activity will be replaced, and people will do, to a certain degree, also other things. Good, and this goes together with these statements: 85% reduction in idle time when workers collaborate with robots, but 85% of managers believe machines will make them more effective and their work more interesting. Look at these statistics. Everybody says people are afraid, they are not willing. People are willing to embrace digital change, right? So there is a biotope on which on which you can work. Good. I'm completely out of time, right? Is it? That's what
I think
expected.
How much? 15 minutes.
How much do you give me for the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
Oh no, you have the tech section, or
no, it's a one section. This I can do very fast. I can do it in 5 minutes or 10
depending
or 15,
on the audience, I would say. How's the feeling? Do you
5 minutes? Who's for 5 minutes? Who's for 10 minutes? Who's for 15 minutes?
Okay.
10 minutes. Okay. Thank you very much. I see this as a compliment. Okay. Workplace and tools. It gets less dramatic. So I mean, we've created a suspense curve now. We come into, I would say, a little bit more comfortable zone. But still, we go back to what we have heard earlier. What does new work mean? New work means we have flatter organizations, right? We work more on interdisciplinary, with collaborative tools. Work gets more flexible from home, from office. Go anywhere. People go from gig to gig or rotate their jobs, working in networks, and part of the work is automated. Okay, this is what we heard earlier, right? That was what the rest of the presentation was about. What does it concretely mean? Again, no rocket science. Everybody likes it except IT. No, before I come to this, one other thing. I like this graph. Maybe it's a bit disconnected to what I'm telling you now, but I like this graph, so I want to show it to you. Yeah? So this is about workplaces, right? The place you work, obviously, is like your environment, your surrounding, right? The people you work with, how the office looks like. It has an impact on how you work, right? How fast you are, how creative you are, how we deal with knowledge. Huh? So, again, I like this graph. This is knowledge, right? It's very important to have knowledge available and to make it transparent to each and everybody so that knowledge is not monopolized, right? If it's available to everybody can work with it. It increases the efficiency, the productivity, the collaboration between people. It's good to have knowledge. Normally, it's good to have knowledge combined with experience. Huh? So, you know how these dots are connected because you have worked with data, or if you're a data scientist, you will learn how to work with these data points. What else can you do with these called bubbles or points?
The slot. Can we have the room over there after the lunch? Do you think this would be possible? That's difficult.
I like it. I'm not super creative. I'm more on the analytic side. What I would have drawn is most probably this one. But I really like this, right? So the question is how you can get people like me drawing a cat. If I see a lot of things you can do. Bring me in the right environment, inspire me, bring me together with the right people. But I'm also influenced by the workplace, where I'm working. How is the environment looking like? And you have all seen this. So there's currently a move from closed offices to open spaces. Open spaces, I know, right? These cubicles in the US, which were introduced in the 60s and 70s, right? This is what you mean. No, that's not what I mean, right? Modern open space architecture is really smart, right? Because if I'm sitting in a cubicle with you and I'm doing telephone calls all day, it's really unnerving if you are one who has to do programming on the other side of the cubicle. Here you have zones, right? So you have the zone for communicating. You go there if you want to do a telephone call. There are also others who do a telephone call, but you do not disturb the people who are sitting in the silent zone, right, where it's not allowed to use telephone, who do the programming. And then there is a zone where we can meet and we can talk, but all is transparent. So it's not in closed office. I see what the others are doing, but I'm not disturbed, right? So really smart architecture is built around this. So customized work experience by tailored designs. Zones for co-meeting, communication, brainstorming, workshops, relax zones, outdoors. And you can go to the Googles, the Facebooks, even small startups you see all around in Berlin. They have implemented this. It's not expensive. This is Depends on how you do it, but it's not expensive. And you couple this with virtual work policies, so remote work, flexible work, and you enable collaboration tools. This is a nice mixture. This at least gets a guy like me closer to drawing this cat, right? I don't know whether I will be able to draw the cat, but it gets me closer to this because the environment is simply there. And this is Spotify, for example, right? So these are the office zones. They are somehow separated, but all is glass. You see what the other guys are doing. If we talk about collaboration, right, you need to see whom you collaborate with, right? You're not sitting either in your cubicle or in your closed office. Has a huge impact. You can drive it further. What is this? Not a massage studio. No. It's not a hotel. No, it's an area in a startup where if you want to take a nap, you take a nap. Huh? You take a nap. Do you have any area in your company where you can take a nap? I don't know. Maybe not, right? Cool. I found it cool. Yeah. Okay, the big ones, the Apple, the Amazons, you know, this circle from Apple. Amazon builds also with star architects for billions of dollars, obviously, buildings. Huh? Well, the light comes in, right? So you connect people with nature. There are even more bigger concepts behind it. But all is open, right? All is open. So your environment helps you or I don't know, stimulates a certain kind of behavior. And this is not my home. This is a co-working space in Berlin, right? This is how we work. You say all strange. The first thing I did when I took over my innovation department, that was in a Middle East environment where you had dark wood, dark chairs, and there were some cubicles around. The first thing I did, I asked my guys, you go to IKEA, you buy a sofa. We bought a sofa, put it in the middle. Then I asked these guys, please buy a carpet who looks like green grass. We bought a carpet with green grass. And I told them, please buy bean bags. So we bought a couple of bean bags, also at a fraction of the cost of any office material. We only had to had some issues with the security because they said, with the fire security, because they said there might be a problem. But in the end, we made it. Next thing I did, I don't know whether you know it. You can have wallpaper. Just paint it where you can write on, right? With adding. So I put it there, and then I put this, what I said, think differently, on it. And then I'll set people whenever they I mean, there were different buildings. As chiefs, obviously, we're in a super modern, super cool building, but my people were in a different building. And what I'm telling you now is the building where my people were in. And there was an elevator, and when you came to the elevator, it looked ugly. So I said, okay, we have a copying machine here, a color printer, right? Put your picture there. Then people put their picture there, and we had weekly meetings on Friday, half an hour, where people could show up what they delivered during the week, something special or what they would talk about, right? And during this session, people were taking photos, and you know, or this wall in front of this elevator, it filled up with all these kind of pictures, a little bit similar like what you find at Facebook. No costs, huge impact. People loved it, right? We had even kind of tourism is established from other departments. One floor lower or above Kimbo. What is going on here? What's going on here? At a fraction of the cost, right? So this is not something which costs a lot of money. Simple thing, you can move things. Last but not least, and now the horror for the IT starts. This is, okay, I want to remotely log onto the ERP system of my company with a mobile device. Or, oh, I have my own MacBook. I have my own MacBook. Please connect it. Seems to be not trivial for IT, but I think over the last years, IT got used to it somehow, that this is what people want. If people should work flexibly remotely, and they will work more, if they're not less, they will work more, if they have this freedom. IT has to follow in this respect the customer demand. Last thing, then I relieve you from this very long speech, is use of collaboration tools. How do you communicate? with your, I mean, if it's not personal, if it's digital? How do you communicate? Email, exactly. Or you use a phone, right? Okay. So, Oliver and me have, with the 2 other co-founders, built up an expert network on blockchain, right? There are a couple of guys in there which are much younger than us, right? I think the youngest is 25, right? The others are in the 30s. I don't know when we did the last telephone call. I have no clue. I cannot tell you. All communication is via Skype, via Hangouts, appear in or something, because you can see people. Because you can put in front of the screen presentations you are talking about. If we prepare presentations, it's not PowerPoint, and then I send it by email to you, and you do a modification, and next one does a modification, and so on. Google Docs, very easy tool, all in cloud. You can do Excel stuff, you can do PowerPoint-like stuff, you can do Word stuff. You do it on the go during the time you talk, super efficient. Maybe not so beautiful as a self-produced PowerPoint slide, but it's there, it's efficient. It's done in a fraction of the time. And where has email gone? Anybody of you using Slack? Okay, we have Slack. Quite cool, right? Sometimes you shift a lot of stuff, at least with the guys who are digitally minded, you shift it to Slack. Simply easier, cooler to communicate. You do project management with Trello or other of these kind of software. You do cloud storage, also sometimes not what IT likes, and they build their own solutions which nobody can use, but this is also there. It's a completely different way of working. Now think about this way of working in a different environment. I think that even makes Carmichael to draw cats. Yeah? And this is it. Thank you very much. So we are open to questions, obviously. I think you're completely exhausted by...
Maybe we can give a few minutes for questions and comments. And you can think about that for a moment. And while you're thinking, a few remarks on how we proceed. We will have, after this session, our breakout session, where we all bring it together from yesterday and from today in the design of a target picture. We arranged, on the way to arrange that we split this target picture design session in a part before lunch and after lunch. This will take place across the street in the hotel. Again, so you know the room already. And yeah, we will, about the procedure and how we do that, we will give you a handout and also introduce that when we are over there. So actually the break, which was supposed to take place, will basically integrate in the breakout session, because there will be coffee and tea and everything, and when you want to abide, let's say, you just help yourself then over the street. And then I think at 1:15 we will have lunch, and after that finalize the session. But now, questions to Carmichael. Any questions, or you are overwhelmed, you need a break maybe, want to maybe also directly interact with him? Yeah. One question. Yeah.
Take the microphone. Okay.
For the collaboration tools, I mean, we have plenty of collaboration tools right now. We are trying to use and trying to create an environment in a cultural way. So, but in each one, for example, we are trying new ones. So people came up with the new ones, and we are trying to new ones. So how do you manage this collaboration tool environment? I mean, there are plenty of them. So.
That's a problem because of all these innovations, better tools come on. I have a very easy rule to this: go for the market leader. Slack is a market leader, Trello is a market leader, because there you can be sure of that they will further develop the system. They are very much financed. With other systems, you might have the problem that they run out of money, or again, this will not develop further. And I think, and there are differences between these systems, but they are not so fundamental compared to moving from email to Slack or to Trello. This is a big move, right? If you use Trello or if you do Slack or other things, yes, there are slight differences, but I think that does not move the needle too much. This is my personal opinion on it. And I would also avoid to introduce a new system every half year, because this is a waste of time for people, right? At least they should be able to work 2-3 years with the same system. My personal take on it. And it's hard enough, I mean, in corporate IT to, if you're really able with your IT department to use new software very frequently, then I think you are quite advanced. Normally even the IT blocks it somehow, because they want to have somehow control, and they don't want to have like 200, 500 systems running, operating things in parallel. Yeah.
But honestly spoken, I mean, we experience ourselves when it comes, for example, to video conferencing, quite some challenges, because every time you want to communicate with clients or somebody else on the other side of the planet, they come up with a new tool. Yeah, you have, for example, in Skype, you have a division between the open private Skype and Skype for business, and the two things don't communicate together. You have on Google Hangouts, you should have a Gmail address, you need a Gmail address, and so on. There are other tools like Appearin, which are easier to use, but have limitations on the number of the people you can see, and so on. So there are difficulties, and certainly on the technology solution side, there is still room for improvement, we would say, for those startups.
But it's, I mean, the first time you work with a word processing system, or the first time you work with Excel, right? Before you can really use these tools, this normally takes a while. I would say at least 6 months, if you know the basic functions. With all these tools we are now talking about, I mean, it takes a week. So they are a bit more user-friendly.
Yeah, for now, please.
I'm interested in the corporate talent marketplace that you mentioned.
Yes.
What kind of a marketplace is it? I mean, is it something managed by HR, or is it a place that people put their CVs or their capabilities that some other people in the top management see and select them?
That's a good question. Technically, you can do it both sides, right? You can open up to the employees to do it, or you can have it centrally managed by HR. What normally happens when you implement these systems, people might not have the incentivation to fill the system. Normally, the process is guided by HR. HR says we want to build up a skill base, right? So they coordinate the process. Then people fill these skills, like you fill your LinkedIn skills. Normally, you need to have somebody who looks over it, right? Because some people tend to maybe overrate their skills. Some people tend to not fill the stuff. So HR needs to have, in the end, call it a controlling function. The content itself is filled by the people.
Is it for the employees that are volunteer, or is it for...
Again, this is the governance of your company. I would strongly advise this is not voluntary, that everybody has to put it in. Otherwise, you have incomplete information. So what is rolled out in big companies is you have to have a profile, right? Put it like this, yeah.
The reason why I'm asking the question is that we have difficulties in finding sufficient resources to work in groups or to work in projects. So it's a good way, I think, to create a marketplace like that. But the issue is that who should be attending there, and who should manage all the things, and what kind of information should be there? I mean,
okay, this is up to you to define this. but it's not that you start from greenfield or scratch. There are talent management solutions which have a certain structure, which also tell you what kind of capabilities you can list. You can look at Upwork or these external marketplaces, how they displace things, right? I thought the LinkedIn style. From this, you can easily learn what you want. What is a challenge, I'm be very honest, is to have some consistency how these skill bases are filled, right? Again, people are very different. And if you see a CV on LinkedIn, some has a career station, or how do you call it, one element in his career very, very briefly described. Others write things like that. So you need to somehow standardize and harmonize it. I think it's the job of the HR. Also to run the talent marketplace in the end. Responsibility technically is with IT, but from a governance perspective should be with HR. So HR should be in the lead for this project. Yeah, and it's not at LinkedIn you fill in your profile as you want, right? You need a kind of controlling mechanism, somebody who looks at this. First of all, that everybody has put his data in, and you need to do some mystery shopping or cross-check that the data is valid, right? This normally takes a lot of time, and this is in the build phase, maybe the thing which is the biggest barrier in the beginning. But once you have the data, and everybody, because if it's filled once, you as an employee only have to make very small additions. Like you add a skill in LinkedIn, right? You just press a button and say, now I have skill in production, in marketing, or anything. Once you have filled the basic profile, it's not such an issue. But building it takes a little time. Yeah.
Was that really the question? The question was that not more about that you have problems to motivate people to volunteer for projects? Or
not motivate,
but
the contrary.
Yeah.
They are all motivated and they all want to be there.
Yeah.
But it's about the selection process
Yeah.
and also the workload that they have.
Okay.
Okay, this is a different point. I told you now about how to feed the data into the system. Okay, if this is clear, good. There are people managers in some companies who help in the selection. So system would give you a list of people who potentially could work in this project. Normally you have somebody manually involved there who has maybe even more knowledge than what's in the system, who says these guys are now assigned to this project. But it depends on the governance of your company. Who has a say about disposing resources? If it's always the boss, then if you need a marketing guy, whatever, a finance guy in a project. If the governance is with the marketing guy, whether he sends somebody or not, you have a big problem with the system, right? So you need to change the governance mechanism. It means there is a central entity who can dispose about these people. And the marketing or finance guy, his role in the end is to hire capable people and upskill the people continuously. So there is also a different management philosophy behind this simple technical implementation. But I don't know if anybody of you has worked in consultancies. Consultancies work like this. Everything is project-based. You need to very quickly staff new people with different capabilities across the globe. And I think this project-based business approach, which comes with different governance structures than in classical companies, this eventually will also become more and more important or even prevalent in classical corporate functions. But you are right. It goes beyond just the technicality to fill in the data or have the talent marketplace. You need to work on the governance as well. And this is not so easy. I mean, nobody. If I'm the guy who is the chief whatever marketing officer, and now you say I cannot tell you whether this guy, if I am not responsible anymore to assign a task to people who belongs to my department. It's a very sensitive issue, but this has to be on top management. You have to decide that you go for a different way of working. This is why we always talk about different operating models. In each of these simple examples, there's a different leadership philosophy. There's a different way of working somehow embedded. Yeah.
I think with this, we should close for now and have maybe more detailed conversation also during the lunch break. So I would ask you and us that we move over to the Rixos Hotel. Yeah, while you are arranging yourself, actually in the groups we had yesterday, that's probably the most sensible.